Ghana was once the crown jewel of African football, a country where the sport wasn't just a pastime, but a way of life. The Black Stars dominated the African Cup of Nations, electrified the World Cup, and produced legends that captured the world's imagination.
On behalf of the Black Stars team, I must say we did our best to make history for our own people in Ghana and Africa.
But today, the picture is much bleaker. Poor performances, corruption, and fading glory define the team that once struck fear into opponents. So, what happened to Ghana football?
We had the opportunity to make new laws, to change what didn't work. Unfortunately, I will not say this is the fault of only the Kent Okreko administration, but because they were in charge, if they really meant well for Ghana football, they would have insisted that the rules of the constitution of Ghana football that were not good enough for the future, even though it was not going to benefit them themselves, they should have insisted that for the sake of the future, those rules were changed. Did they do that? No.
Let's rewind to the 1960s, the golden era of Ghanaian football. Ghana's national team, the Black Stars, lifted the African Cup of Nations, AFCON, 4 times in 1963, in 1965, in 1978, and in 1982. Players like Abedi Pele and Tony Yeboah not only dominated Africa, but left their mark on the global stage. Their magic didn't stop there. In 2006, Ghana qualified for its first ever FIFA World Cup, defeating powerhouse teams to reach the round of 16. Then came 2010, a historic run to the quarterfinals in South Africa, where only a heartbreaking penalty shootout against Uruguay ended their dream. That quarterfinal run wasn't just a victory for Ghana, it was a moment for Africa.
Well, fans across Africa are rallying behind Ghana's Black Stars, the continent's last remaining World Cup contender.
That era was marked by an administration that benefited from a previous administration that put the foundations in place. And what they did, what were the foundations? They invested in youth football, invested in coaches going abroad or staying in Ghana and being taught by a group of administrators and those who knew what they are about from previous eras. So under the late Ben Kofi, he developed a development plan for the football. Unlike most things in Ghana that stay on the shelf, we actually took this off the shelf and followed the plan. So it meant that we had a youth team of the Stephen Appiahs, Michael Essie's, Derek Watkins, and so on, that grew into the under 20, the Olympic team, and became the Black Stars. And it's not magic. If you want to grow your senior team, you have to start from the youth team.
At the heart of Ghana's football decline lies the Ghana Football Association, or GFA. The tipping point came in 2018 when an explosive documentary by investigative journalist Anas Arimarial Anas exposing the GFA's corruption. The fallout was swift. FIFA dissolved the GFA's leadership, but the damage was already done. The corruption scandal wasn't just about money, it revealed a deep rot in how Ghanaian football was managed. Okreko, first elected in 2019, has faced criticism for his administration's handling of issues ranging from youth development to alleged favoritism in managerial appointments.
We had a fantastic opportunity, and that's why people blame the Okreko administration, because they had what in Latin they say a tabula rasa. They had a blank slate on which to force the rules, and they would have had the people of Ghana backing behind them. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And arguably, we are in a worse or a deeper hole than we were before. So, objectively, they have done some things that are right. But if I were to rate them, and after his most recent spell, so this is public information, this is not new, I said that I will rate them as being probably having done about 50 or 40% of what they were capable and should have been capable of doing.
Under Coach Otto Addo's leadership, the national team delivered a disappointing performance during the 2022 FIFA World Cup, exiting in the group stages after inconsistent displays against Portugal, South Korea, and Uruguay. But the struggle didn't end there. The country failed to qualify for the 2025 AFCON after losing their final group game to Angola.
Otto Addo's misfortune is both systemic and personal. Systemic because, as I have outlined, you can't thrive in a broken system. And what's the broken system? The best national teams are ones where the youth talent have progressed through the age ranks, and by the time they reach the senior team, they have a cohesion. They have a chemistry among them. And if you watch the Black Stars today, it is immediately apparent that there's zero cohesion or very little cohesion because they don't know each other. So, Otto, to his credit, has been able to always select some of the best 25 players. So he's not guilty of nepotism like previous managers. He's not guilty of that. If you look at what he's been selecting, they are some of the best players. Indeed, they are the best 25 usually that we have in the world anyway. When he brings them, getting them to play as a unit is a challenge because of the problems that I have enumerated. Also, that's systemic. From a personal point of view, Otto Addo might have hacked this problem. He might have had a shortcut solution to this problem if you were a coach of a certain level, experience. Unfortunately, this is Otto Addo's first proper job as a coach. So he does not have the experience. That is where, again, the GFA is at fault. Why? They promised us when Chris Hughton was sacked that they said, I didn't say, they were going for a world-class manager who has won this, who has won that. Then they revised their tune, lowered their standard. Why? Nobody knows. They have not told us. And went for Otto Addo, who is at best a talent scout, because that's what he was doing for Borussia Dortmund. So Otto Addo's problems, to sum up, are both systemic and personal.
Another critical issue is the neglect of youth development. In the past, Ghana's youth leagues were the backbone of its success, producing stars like Michael Essien and Stephen Appiah, but those systems have largely collapsed. To understand Ghana's struggles, we also need to look at the bigger picture. African football has evolved. Nations like Senegal, Algeria, and Morocco have modernized their domestic leagues, embraced cutting-edge tactics, and hired top-tier coaches.
Bringing a model that worked between the 1960s and early 1990s to a social media Gen Z generation like 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and doing a copy and paste is probably not the best idea. So the idea may be good, but in English we say it's anachronistic, a great idea for a different time. So copying, pasting without tweaking it for the times means that you'll be in trouble. Which is why, even though the idea has been good, the execution and its attendant result has not worked like would have worked in the 90s, 80s, and 70s. So the to grassroots football. But the reason why it worked in those periods was that at the time, football fields were available in every community. Now, across the cities, Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, Tamale, there's gentrification everywhere, which means that all these places are becoming concrete jungles. All across the playgrounds where you would have had the heart or the critical mass of the best talent coming to play have all vanished, have become lorry parks, apartment blocks, schools, or something in response to population explosion in these places. What does it mean for our football? It means then that if you want to go and scout, you have less number of pitches, neighborhoods, zongo communities where you can get the best talent from.
The decline of Ghanaian football is about more than just trophies. It's about the heart of a nation. Football has always been a unifying force in Ghana, bringing people together across political and cultural divides. Now, the failure of the Black Stars reflects a loss of national pride. So, how does Ghana rebuild its football legacy? Experts and former players believe that there is still hope, and here's what needs to happen.
Black Stars team, as I've established, are very, very good individually. What we need is one, a coach of experience who can hack the chemistry problem. Because there are certain coaches who have been in this situation many, many times and know the shortcuts towards getting a team to play fluidly. So get us an experienced coach. However, if they insist on keeping Otto Addo, then they have to give him time. Whether Ghanaians will give Otto Addo that benefit of time is another question altogether. Because if you give a coach enough time, 2 years of making mistakes enough, he would communicate his tactics to the team invariably, and they'll be able to do what he wants. But do we have the time? That is out there for Ghanaians to answer. So, one, get a very experienced coach who can hack it. Two, if you are keeping Otto Addo, then give him the time and resource to do the job. And three, the GFA should stop shooting itself in the foot by following the well-established path of doing the right thing. Don't take shortcuts. If you are doing youth football, do youth football. Stop the favoritism. Allow the youth coaches to do their job. Allow the youth coaches to select the best players in the country, because at the moment, at certain levels, it's not happening. There's still nepotism going on at the youth levels, and that must stop. If we have players selected on merit at under 17, under 20, look, the cream always rises to the top. We are not the first or the 10th country who are trying this. If you do things the right way, the third point I am making is that allow the system to work on itself. The quality will rise to the top. The chaff will be weeded out. Let them grow through under 17, under 20, under 23. And in a few years, maximum 4 or 5 years, our Black Stars will be ready to dominate Africa again.